guards, you got centers, they're coming after you every snap. And you got to stay in there and fight. And those guys do. And that's why those guys are considered special.
Yep, exactly. And that's the thing is that, as you just said, Scott, I mean, so much of it is fighting off those blocks from fullbacks or guards or centers. And, and that's the way the game has been for so long. And it's frankly, it's the battle I like watching the most is, when you have an offense, it's going to line up an I formation and you have like I said, kind of one of those glass seating traditional inside linebackers who's going to take on the fullback in the hole and shed him and make the play or at the line of scrimmage. I mean, I feel like Tim Allen, that's football. I mean, that is exactly what I, would like about it. But in today's era, when you're seeing all these little running backs, you're seeing these kind of hybrid receiver tight end guys, like you mentioned KJ Wright, and that's a player that, Seattle's outside linebacker. I don't know that he's ever been to a Pro Bowl, but he's so rarely asked to rush the passer, so he never gets the big gaudy sack statistics. But, Jesus, 6'4", 245, 250 pounds, and he moves like a damn tight end out there. I mean, he is one of the better coverage linebackers, and yet he's huge. And then a lot of times you see these little guys that play linebacker that are speed linebackers. They're 6'1", 6'2", that can't move the way that KJ Wright does at 6'4", 245 pounds. That to me is really one of the things that has helped Seattle's defense stand apart for as long as it has, is that they do have that speed and versatility at the linebacker position. Was there any other guys that kind of jumped out? I know for me at least, the very first linebacker I watched in college say, wow, that guy's a difference maker, I want him on my team, was actually the very first University of Washington game I went to as a kid, and I watched Dan Morgan and the Miami Hurricanes come into town, and UW got him that day. It was back in 2000. I looked it up. But Dan Morgan was phenomenal. I mean, I remember I happened to have pretty good seats that game, was sitting right outside of where the opposing players, so Miami's players, were entering the field. And all the UW fans there were chanting and trying to mock and really get into the heads of the Miami players. And Dan Morgan was turning around giving it right back. I mean, he was as nasty as any player I've ever seen as far as just kind of enjoying the crowd. And I thought, that's an inside linebacker. And then, oh, by the way, I mean, he had forced fumble, he had sack, he had interception in that game. He was the best player on the field and wasn't at all surprised. Is there anybody that jumps out at you and thinking back as far as just a dominant college player, regardless of whether they had a lot of success in the NFL, that is like the traditional linebacker in your mind that you always think of whenever you think of middle linebackers in today's NFL?
Lofton, who played for Atlanta.
Yeah, Chris Lofton. Yeah.
You know what? I tried to draft him bigger in life when I was in San Fran. I couldn't get to him. I tried to trade up to get him. But, the thing about it, Rob, is like you talk about Dan Morgan, Kuechly.
Yep.
It's such a tough position because there's so much traffic around you. There's so much physical people around you that are trying to move you, and to be able to make plays. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can give me, 235 pounder, which was Willis.
Yeah.
Or you give me a 250 pound player, like Kuechly.
Yep.
It's so important just to be able to see it and get it. And there's so much traffic in your face, the RPOs you're talking about, and is he handing it off? Is he not handing it off? Is he keeping it? The quarterback, so it makes you think, and the good ones can identify majority of the time. The ones that are average, they don't know. They're guessing. They're saying, okay, well, I'm going to go with the quarterback. We saw this on 2nd and 6 last week on tape, and he kept it. But the good ones can identify, and you can't teach it. I'm telling you, it's God given.
Yeah, it's that to me is like I said, is what means football is just an instinctive linebacker, and some of those guys that, I remember Alofa Tatupu, Mike Singletary, of course, to me is one of the great instinctive linebackers. You can just remember those eyes, and just the way that they locate the ball. It's almost like they could close their eyes and find the ball. I've always said like Jedi, instincts. I mean, they just know where the ball's going because they've watched it so much, they've prepared that way, or they're just that instinctive. The game comes so natural to them, and to me, that's football at its best.
No doubt.
Well, that about wraps it up for this week. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the Instinctive Scouting Podcast. This and prior episodes are always available for free and immediate download at NFLDraftScout.com, as well as iHeartMedia and Spotify. For my buddy Scot McCloughan, this is Rob Rang signing off on the ISP. Catch you next week.